My name is Daniel Anthony Sanchez. I'm 29 years old. I was born in 1988 in San Bernardino, California. Who was Daniel before Premium? I think that I was just a fucked up little kid. You know what I mean? Like, and I hate to say it like that, but I just wasn't like your ideal child. I don't think. I didn't get in a bunch of trouble, but I always hung out with the wrong people, and I was kind of at that time I was a lot more following than leading. So I made a lot of mistakes. Needless to say, grew up in a neighborhood that I'm not gonna say is like a terrible neighborhood. I grew up in Fontana, California. I was there my whole childhood. And yeah, it's just not the greatest neighborhood, and a lot of drugs, some violence in the home. So it was definitely like crazy. But Daniel before Premium, I don't think if I would have stayed where I was, or I don't know how to word this. I guess if I would have been a product of my environment, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I'm definitely not a product of the environment I was raised in. What led me to want to become an entrepreneur? That's kind of like one of those weird things. Like entrepreneur, like that word in general to me is kind of weird. I embrace it, but it's not really like how I want to define myself. Like I just, I enjoy doing business. I enjoy creating and making things happen. And I think that naturally just turns you into an entrepreneur, I guess, if you're able to make a little bit of money out of it. I feel like there's a lot of people that call themselves entrepreneurs that really aren't really doing anything. So I don't really like to define myself that way, but I do understand, where that word comes from, and I do get it. But what led me there? Growing up, I always found a way to make money somehow, some way. Whether it was helping a neighbor out, doing this, doing that. I was always trying to figure out ways to make money. I was always hustling. So I guess it was always there. It was always in me at some point or another to try to figure out how to take an idea of something and turn it into a way of making money. And I always did. I always found ways to make money somehow, some way. Ups and downs. So ups and downs growing up. It was definitely it was tough at home. I had good parents. Like, I'm not gonna lie, my mom and my dad were both good, but they had their flaws. And I think that's with any family, and my dad was super hard worker. He showed me that, hard work was definitely important. My mom was always there for us, but there was definitely like rough patches. My mom was an alcoholic, my dad was abusive, so it was it was definitely it was crazy growing up. But when I look back on it, and I think the time that I became a dad, my whole perspective opened up, because I just thought that was normal. I thought that was normal life. I thought everybody around me was the same way, that it looked really good from the outside, but inside it wasn't so good in my home. And I thought that that's how it always was. And I think I always made an excuse about that. But the day that I became a dad, my son's 5. So if you guys don't know, I got a 5-year-old kid. I also have one on the way. But the day that happened, my whole life changed. And I kind of started thinking and realizing, I was like, wow, that's not normal. I didn't grow up normal. And the things that I seen and I went through, I didn't want to do for my kids. So, it was, I guess you could say that it was a kind of a tough upbringing. We weren't poor, we weren't rich, and if I needed something, I always had what I needed. The wants were always there, but that turned into kind of pushed me to do the things that I did. I hustled, I always grinded to get what I wanted, because I wasn't getting it from at home. They weren't just handing shit out to me. So I don't know if that answers the question. Could you repeat the question again?
Talk about your ups and downs.
Ups and downs. Ups and downs.
Where you are today, though.
Okay, getting me to where I am today. So ups and downs in business then.
And no, in general.
Okay.
Life.
So I mentioned all the lifestyle stuff, all the stuff growing up. Ups and downs into business. There was definitely a lot of those. It was all a learning curve. I didn't have anybody there holding my hand. And at the time when I was starting the business, I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know I was even starting a business. I was just doing something to put food on the table for me and my girl at the time, So, like I said, I knew I wanted more, and I knew I wanted to do more, do better. So at the time I had a 9-to-5 job, and I loved it, but at the same time it just wasn't what I wanted. So the downside of it is I had this great job, but it wasn't giving me what I needed. So I was just grinding. I was always up till 3, 4 in the morning, trying to figure out ways through YouTube and reading and just grinding, trying to figure out a way to start a company. Definition of successful. It's definitely not a money thing. So anybody who's been in business understands that success is not all money. Money is a result of what your accomplishments are. I don't think that, first starting, like, it's not the goal. A lot of people go into business assuming that the goal, money's the goal, and that's really not. For me, it's far from that. My definition of success is being able to wake up, do whatever I want, and usually whatever I want means go to work and work my ass off. It's a weird thing. I have the flexibility to sit here and film on a Monday morning and not worry about it because I know I have a staff and a crew that backs me up. That's kind of that is what I define as success. The fact is that I don't have a bunch of money and I don't have all these crazy things. I don't have a lavish lifestyle, but I'm super comfortable and I get to be around my wife and my kid as much as I want. And I think that's success to me. Being able to just kind of pick and choose what I do and not have to worry. Success to me is just trying to think of the word, what it would be, but just I guess more than anything, just freedom. Success to me is freedom. Being able to have the freedom of choice to do whatever I want when I want and not have to worry about not being able to pay bills and where the next meal is coming from. So I know that my wife and my kid are taken care of. I know that my staff and my employees are taken care of. I know that all the bills for the company are good and there's no debt, and that's success to me. So the issues and the things that happened while I was growing up, the way that it impacted me at the time was pretty negative. Like I really made a lot of excuses for myself and the things that I was doing. A lot of people don't know this, and I'm very open about it. I didn't graduate high school, not in the traditional way. I basically went to sophomore year and I decided on my own without anybody really around me influencing my decision. I didn't have parents pushing me saying to stay in school. I quit. So I dropped out and I got a full-time job. And I think at that point in my life was when, I started to make money on my own. I became independent as a sophomore. I think I was 16 years old, became super independent from that time forward. And before that, I was making a lot of excuses about everything in my life, about why I didn't have this or why I wasn't doing that. And the things that I seen growing up at the time, I was becoming a product of that environment. And I was, like I said, just constantly making excuses. But the time that I decided to make my first kind of big boy decision, I said, you know what, I'm leaving school, which I don't recommend, but that's what I did. Kind of changed my life because I really took my life into my own hands. And from that day forward, I realized I was I'm in control. And it was a good and bad thing. Good in my own way because I took it and I did the right things. I got a job, I got a good paying job. I put myself around the right people, so the job that I had before Premium, I had one job before, and I worked for a celebrity drummer. His name is Travis Barker. I worked for his clothing brand, which is called Famous Stars and Straps. They're still around. At the time that I was there with the brand, it was a very, very hot company. Travis Barker was on fire. He was just everywhere. And till this day, he's still, we still stay in contact. But he was, touring with the band Blink-182, and basically took me under the wing. I learned a lot that I know from in the auto world, and the way I market my company is totally different. But I learned it all from the apparel side and the lifestyle way of marketing. And it really became an impact as I started my own business to take some of the things I learned there and kind of flip it and put it into, my own business. And it's a whole different genre, but they're both culture-based businesses. The lifestyle apparel brand and the automotive lifestyle, they're so similar, which I just kind of connect the dots. But yeah, I learned a lot, from my previous job, and I brought it into my own personal business. But I always do this, and I stray away from the questions because I start going on about other things. But I definitely got in a point in my life where I took control of things, and I just took them in the right direction. From that day on forward, the craziest thing, the day that I left school and started into a job, it was the day that my life really just changed and went for the better, because prior to that, I wasn't going in a good direction, and I didn't really have a plan. How did I feel opening Premium Auto Styling? Opening the business was just an extension of what I was already doing. I was working in my, now fast forward 2008 through 2011, I was working in my apartment with, you know, everybody around me or my wife around me, some of the friends around me looking like, what the hell is this guy doing? You know, just hustling and, you know, constantly on the computer. And it was just an evolution. You know, I needed to get out of that space because I had basically turned my apartment into a vinyl shop. I had racks and rolls and computers and plotters and printers, all of this different stuff in a little 900 square foot apartment. And my wife basically said, you know what, we can't do this anymore. And she basically gave me a budget to go get the shop. So I went and picked up a little 800 square foot warehouse unit in Riverside, California. And didn't really have a plan. I just knew I needed space. There was no plan. I just needed space. And I didn't have a plan of hiring employees, and I just didn't think that it was going that far. I never limited myself to what it was going to become, but I wasn't thinking that far ahead at the time. And got into the shop space and just started working. And organically, the business just started growing. You know, people found out I had a location and started showing up. And the lifestyle started to really, really get in to where I was getting involved with these communities, all different types of cars, all different types of walks of life. And my first employee, you know, it just kind of naturally, organically happened. Mitch was my first employee. If you watch some of Premium's vlogs, you know about Mitch. But Mitch was the first guy that came in and really supported what I did, really got behind it, and wasn't like putting his hands out, because at the time the business really started to bring in money, and people assumed it was doing a lot better than it really was. Mitch just kind of came in and said, fuck, I want to help you, and he did. And what help consisted of, which he didn't know at the time, was grinding alongside of me 24/7. And when I mean 24/7, you know, I got this shop and I would start at 8 in the morning and we'd get out of there at 3 in the morning. And that was almost, you know, 6 days a week. I took Sundays off. I always took Sundays off, but that was 6 days a week. We were literally in there, and I'm not exaggerating, 8 in the morning till 3 in the morning. And at that time, I remember all of the shops next to us, we remember seeing them come in, and then we'd see them leave and go home. And sometimes we'd see employees start showing back up before we even left. They were reopening already with their other staff, you know, because some of these companies had, you know, night and day shifts. And so that really started to get me where I was like, wow, like we might be overdoing this. But at the time, like it had to be done. I knew in order to grow, we had to do it. And, you know, like I said, Mitch got behind me and really kind of just had my back and stuck it through. He still works for me now to this day. He's a manager at the shop, and, you know, just a blessing to meet the right people and have the right people support you. You know, it means a lot. So find a crew that really, really supports what you're doing, and success will come. Was there ever a time that I felt like I wasn't going to make it? There was plenty of times, like, you know, 2012 through 13 was a life-changing, really time in my life, because the business was thriving and I had my first kid, and I also got my first mortgage at that time. And don't want to beat around the bush. You know, I came this close to losing the house. You know, I was trying to maintain the business, trying to be there for my kid and do all the things necessary, but it just wasn't enough. And financially, we suffered, you know, because I put so much faith into the business, and some of the things didn't work out, at least not right away. And yeah, I came really, really close to failing. So did I ever lose faith? No, I never lost faith. I always knew that it was going to be what it is, and I still see the vision, and I still see things in the future that are going to continue to happen. But yeah, I mean, times got tough. They got really, really tough, and I could have quit very easily, and a lot of people around me would have understood why I did, including, you know, my wife and my kid. But both of them were there and really supportive of what I was doing. We went through the motions, and we got back up on our feet, and we're still here. do I feel that I've achieved success now at where I'm at? And the answer to that is my definition of success is constantly changing. As I grow, as I get older, get more mature, know my business better, everything always changes, you know? So yeah, you know, a couple years ago to where I'm at now, yes, I've achieved the success, you know, the ideas, the plans, I've watched things fall into place because we've made them happen. So yeah, I've succeeded and I've achieved those goals, but are we done? No, I'm not. I mean, I got the, you know, the goals that I have for the next 5 years are set up. So my definition of success is always changing, and it's always evolving, so it's always changing. So with that said, we've achieved success. Yes, we have achieved success, but my definition, have I achieved what I wanted? No. I mean, I got a lot of other things planned, bigger and better things, you know. And like I mentioned earlier, if you guys were, you know, watching earlier, achieving success is not a monetary thing. It's not about money. It's not about dollars. To me, it's not. So that's a result of what we're doing, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished. But not to say this, you know, to sound snotty or anything, but no, we haven't achieved the success that I want. There's so much more that we're gonna get, and we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep growing, and we're gonna keep innovating. So I'm excited to keep doing that. I love this business. That's all I gotta say.